Oh shit, it's going. Okay. Last week on our media podcast, we took a look at Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Today, we're going to be changing our focus to video games. There isn't really an outline for this week. There won't be like an interviewer-interviewee exchange, but more of like a headspace discussion. And there's a lot to cover in this one, especially because I'm very excited about this, and
Xavier,
I love this.
Xavier has something to say at the end. So I'm going to take a bit of a backseat. I've made some points. I'm going to stick to them. But stay tuned.
I have so much to say.
Yes, because you have a very impassioned something that you want to say. But okay, let's move along.
All right. So now, in this week's podcast, we're going to be looking at the game franchise of Assassin's Creed. So there have been many installments since the first game was released back in 2007, the most recent being Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which takes place in Victoria, England. Okay, so to be honest, I haven't played that game yet though, Syndicate, but I played all the other ones prior. I actually have an Assassin's Creed tattoo on my left forearm, and it's literally the mantra of the Brotherhood. Nothing is true, everything is permitted. I even play like the 2.5D, like, I don't know, some weird angle, right? That's why it's like 2.5D. Assassin's Creed Chronicles, and I even have like the Assassin's Creed like apps on my phone, so I'm like obsessed with Assassin's Creed. I have the games also across various platforms, so like computer, I have some on PC, Xbox 360, PS3, even Xbox One, and I had a PS4, and I had it on PS4 as well. So in this podcast, we won't be analyzing a specific game. Instead, we've decided to take a look at future possibilities in the Assassin's Creed games and what we want to see, what we hope to see, and all of that. Also to note, we're also trying to keep this under 30 minutes, so around that time. We are slowly figuring out what we want to do with these, but I don't know if we're going to be able to do it this time. But if this one goes really long, we're sorry. This is just craziness.
We're going to try and commit. Yeah. We're going to try and do this.
So before we started, I thought we could see how much we know about the game. So Mason and I could give a little description of like what our favorite game was, our background story for Assassin's Creed, and all of that. But also, we're not going to do a backstory for the video game itself. We're just gonna, because it'll take way too long. Even if we just did the main points, there's just so much that has happened in the Assassin's Creed universe that is just, you just go look at the Assassin's Creed wiki if you want to.
The wiki's great. It actually is. Yeah. It's done through Wikia, so it is public, but it is really good. It's really detailed.
So just go read that if you're really interested. So for my favorite game, it would definitely be Black Flag. So even on the PS3, the world was just amazing. It was just so beautiful. There's also so much to do in it. You make your own island. You upgrade your island. There's so much to explore. Brian Tyler made an amazing soundtrack to accompany the gameplay. I even still listen to that on my phone with music. Yeah, everything about the game was perfect for me. It wasn't glitchy like Unity when it was first released. You had a massive, vast, open world you could go to. You could go to Africa even. You could stay in the Caribbean. You fight legendary ships. It was amazing. I also liked Brotherhood and 3. Both were really well done in my opinion, especially Brotherhood, when you can just be like a god and just one hit kill all the motherfuckers. In 3, the open world was amazing. It was massive too, and it was just fun running around and experiencing the world. Maybe it's just because we live in North America and it's just cool to me to see all of that, but that's what I like about it.
My favorite game in the franchise is Brotherhood. I think that the chance to interact with historical figures like Machiavelli, the Borgia family, it was a great fan service, especially, knowing the importance of these characters. Also, getting to see Da Vinci was a great continuation of the Assassin's Creed 2 storyline, so that was always welcome. Xavier, you addressed that the game introduced the much-needed chain kill combo system. I think that was sorely needed, especially if you try now with all the games that we have, with all the different fight mechanics we have. If you go back and try and play Assassin's Creed 1 and Assassin's Creed 2 to an extent, the combat's way too slow. It's too clunky. It doesn't move as fluidly as some of the newer games. Rome was the setting for Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. It was just such a vibrant, colorful setting. And, despite being the only location you actually get to visit, I thought it was always consistently an interesting place to be in. There was always something going on, and the side quests really made use of what would have been going on at the time.
Also the economics too, right? You're like
You're
always like setting up the store, and then you get income from the and all of that. Yeah.
So like, not only would it have been historically accurate, I said accurate. It would have. It was
DJ Khaled.
So it was historically accurate, but at the same time, like they made it fun, and being that Rome was the only place you got to travel to, I thought that they did a really good job with that. And this is coming from me, and I've been playing the game since 2009, since Assassin's Creed 2, which a friend of mine actually introduced me to. I had no idea what the franchise was beforehand. Damn. I've only played the core system releases, except for Syndicate, which I haven't got my hands on yet. So no Liberation or Altair Chronicles for me. But I've heard they're pretty good. I did play Assassin's Creed Rogue for the PS3, and I liked its plot and I liked its characters, but overall, I think that it was kind of just a reskin of Black Flag. That's a huge criticism that it got.
Yeah.
It was fun to sail around in cold waters, and they really did make use of that, but overall it didn't really add anything new to the lore or the mythology, so I can see why people wouldn't really like that game. I've also seen the short film Embers, which concluded the Ezio storyline. I thought it was fantastic, but other than that, I haven't exposed myself to any of the extended media, like the comics or graphic novels.
All right. So we're just gonna the only like sort of format that we have in this podcast this week is just a few questions. So the first question is going to be future installments, and the first one is possibly China. So what do you think about Assassin's Creed Ancient China?
I say hell yes to China, especially Ancient China. But I'd love to see an assassin take part in the Red Turban Rebellion and the fall of the Han Dynasty. I think that'd be really cool.
Also, just like the weapons and fighting mechanics in the game would be sick AF.
They would. Yeah.
Also, I think this could not just be China, but it could be like, okay, no, I want this to just be China, and then after you can have like not just all of Asia, but then you could have like a Japan and a Korea one. So just like how they did in Paris, then they have an England one. So same thing here. Like that's all like Western Europe.
Yeah.
It's like the last ones that they did, but this one could be all of Eastern China. Sorry, Eastern Asia. So that'd be really cool. So what do you think about Egypt?
Yeah, so Egypt is one that the fans have been pushing for since like forever, and I totally think that's warranted. But I'd give a word of caution to the creators, because for a game to be set in ancient Egypt to avoid a lot of criticism, it would need to have like some serious historical consulting and some really dedicated writers. My worry is that the whole spectacle of ancient Egypt would just be capitalized on in order to put out like a buggy game really fast. So if they went the ancient Egypt route, I'd want it to be done well and with care.
All right, so I have a little bit of information about that after, but just leave it at that for now.
It might pertain to this mystery rant. You will see. You will see.
And what do you think about Assassin's Creed Russia?
Honestly, this would get my vote. I love Russian history. The 1917 and 1919 revolutions, they scream for an assassin protagonist. They actually did a graphic novel version of this period where they gave Subject 16, they gave Clay a Russian relative named Nikolai, and I guess Nikolai helped like overthrow the Tsar and stuff. And I'm sure that's great, but I feel like to do Russian history the awesome justice it deserves, you'd actually have to play the game. You wouldn't want to read it. So I still think, despite the fact that it's territory they've tread before, I'd still want to see a game about it.
Yeah, so like in that whole Assassin's Creed Chronicles, right, they have like those three storylines. Mm-hmm. But I was just wondering, is it like too recent though to have it like 1917, 1999? Because they would have machine guns, like mechanized weapons and rifles and all of that. So my thought is that Ubisoft would probably stray away from that era. Maybe even like more ancient times. Maybe they might go there, but I wouldn't be against it. I'd still like to see it, but I think it's just a little too far away from their norm.
Yeah, I think that's totally a valid criticism. That's something that I would want to leave to like a really hardcore, dedicated Assassin's Creed developer. Because I don't know if you remember, but in Assassin's Creed 3, one of the modern day missions, you had to sneak into Abstergo.
Yeah, I know, and you had the apple and everything.
Yeah. But like,
and you still had like the hidden blade and all of
you
that.
did, but the security guards were using bats.
Yeah.
And you would think they had guns.
But they were like, nah.
So it didn't make a lot. So that's totally fair. I hope that someone creative employed by Ubisoft could overcome that. But I definitely see why Russia in that time period would be a problem.
It'd be difficult.
Yeah.
All right. So are there any other time eras or places that you want to see, or which one of these is your favorite?
Wouldn't it be sick if we got to see like a game based around the first assassins, Adam and Eve? You could set the game in prehistory during the era of the first civilization, the hologram people that, you know, they come and mess with you every now and then. If you did those side missions in Assassin's Creed 2 and you unlocked the truth video, you got to see Adam and Eve running from some unknown force with the first apple of Eden. I think I'm the only one that thinks that maybe like a quasi-religious or prehistory Adam and Eve story would be totally cool. It'd be kind of quirky, and like I think a lot of like the core fan base would kind of be put off by that because it wouldn't be set in a historical, like a real historical setting. I'm probably alone on this, but I don't know. It's just a thought that I had. I felt like at one point they were building up to it, but I don't know. My brain does go to some weird places sometimes, but...
All right, so just my favorite out of all of the ones that we listed is Assassin's Creed Egypt, and like I said, I'm going to get to that soon. So are there any historical figures that you want to see in these games? So there's like a bunch of shoutouts in Revelations to Marco Polo, even his dad, Niccolo, and other great writers. And then, but do you want there to be like active participation, like with Leonardo da Vinci, where you do missions for him, or he gives you equipments, or do you want it to sort of be like George Washington, where it's more like you see him, he's the general, and then you just go and do your own thing?
So I think, to answer the question, like, I think that the best Assassin's Creed characters that are real historical figures are the ones that you actually get to interact with. So my disappointment with Washington in Assassin's Creed 3 was that he kind of just drove the plot. You didn't really have much to do with Washington, whereas Da Vinci was very much there with you.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing that he didn't do was go with you on your missions. So I like more Da Vinci style characters. Ben Franklin, I think, if in some side missions in AC3 kind of took on that role. But I think characters like Da Vinci who are more involved are a lot better than George Washington. A character that I've always wanted to see personally was Martin Luther. I actually had a small wish that an Ezio game would get released where you got to meet him somehow. I feel like he'd be, you know, a Da Vinci Franklin kind of hybrid character that would outfit you but also prepare you for battle. I also would have really wanted to see Vladimir Lenin if we did a Russian Assassin's Creed game, but he'd probably only work sort of as Washington did. Like, you'd see him in cutscenes and he'd give like a rousing speech. But yeah, I'd want to see Martin Luther. I'd want to talk to that guy. I feel like he'd just be a really interesting character to have in a game.
Is Martin Luther not like is that Austria? No. Like German Empire area. Yeah,
so
like Prussia then, right?
So yeah, and it wouldn't have been too far-fetched for Ezio to have met him. He would have had to travel quite far, but I mean, like, hey, he went to Turkey in Revelations. Like, he made it to Constantinople, so I don't know.
But Revelations was ridiculous. It was like, what the fuck?
What are your thoughts on that game, briefly?
Revelations?
Yeah.
The hook blade made an appearance and it's just gone. So that was kind of weird. But I did like how you could zip line around with the hook blade.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. It was, I don't know. They tried to like jam so many like things into the game at once, and it's also like kind of sad to see Ezio just like that's his last game.
Right? That was a real like for a character that you had.
They made 3 games for him.
They did, and that was just such a weak ending chapter. I found he kind of becomes
an old man.
He literally becomes at one point like a side character in his own story.
Yeah. And
less interesting people take the forefront.
Yeah.
What did you think of the tower defense?
That was weird.
Wasn't that stupid?
That was really fucking weird. Yeah. What I did like in that was the Altair missions. When you went back in time and you got to play as Altair.
Yep.
And then also just see that whole storyline unfold.
Those were fantastic.
That was good writing.
And they fixed that terrible American accent that he had in the first game. They gave him a sort of Middle Eastern like Levantine accent, which was Nice touch. Nice touch.
All right. And then also, what if you worked for Lenin and you were like a contracted guy to like,
Back to Lenin?
To kill his political rivals?
They could actually totally work that in, and they could make that feasible. And I'd be so down to be his contract killer. If they had a game where literally you just walked into a building and Lenin stood there and said, "Go kill my political rivals," I'd fucking do that. I would pay full price for that game.
And then that's sort of more like the Assassin's Creed, because like Assassin's Creed 2 is more where they focused on assassinations instead of just like, okay, so when Brotherhood came out, a lot of the criticisms were that it became no longer focused around assassination. It was more like a whole fight against the Borgia instead of just killing one person like a real assassin. And there's also, they like implemented like I said, the economic system into it, where you like go and create like workshops, banks, and all of that. So a lot of people didn't like that, but then that's sort of like the norm now with the Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah, Black Flag really tried to fix that. Black Flag was the first game since probably the first or the second that started to give you different ways to kill your targets. Like like once you were put in a situation where you had to kill them, you were really kind of given free reign. Whereas I think that Brotherhood up till about 3, like they basically gave you a breadcrumb trail on how to kill these guys. Like to get full sync sometimes. It would be like, blow this guy up with this, or like stab him with this. Yeah. And it's like, but like I want to creatively kill the people. Yeah. So Black Flag did fix that. Anyways, so Xavier's got a lot to say. There's a lot of content coming, so listen close. I'm gonna take a back seat here. I might chime in.
Yeah, you should weigh in some.
You think so? Okay,
bit, yeah.
Okay. I'll do my best.
Okay.
But okay, here it is. This is Xavier's little tangent.
So, just the other day, I was reading an article where some developer from Ubisoft said that they're not going to be coming out with a new game in 2016.
Ooh.
They might still, but they probably won't. Ever since the glitchy Unity game came out, where people had like tons of problems running into walls, couldn't hurdle over stuff, they decided not to push the developers to release another game this year. So this will give developers more time to polish the game, look for bugs, fix it, and it's probably going to be released in 2017. Moreover, I also read that it's plausible that they're going to be doing Ancient Egypt.
Ooh.
And the code name for the game is Assassin's Creed Empire.
What?
I know. So that's crazy. But also, but who knows, right? Like it could, I don't know. This is all speculation. I also wrote an article about Assassin's Creed China on Movie Pilot, and in that article, I said that the next one would be called Assassin's Creed Victory. When Syndicate wasn't announced yet, but I was wrong. It's called Syndicate, obviously. But I did get the era correct. I did get that it was going to be Victorian England. So that's really cool. So I hope that maybe I got the name wrong again, but I'll have the same era right. Because if there was an Assassin's Creed Egypt, there's just so much to like talk about right now. But it's... Yeah, okay. So we'll just start to get into it. Also, I think that they're not going to be doing an Assassin's Creed game this year because the movie's coming out right at the same time when the game would usually come out. So instead of just pushing for the game, they're just going to have just the movie this year.
And did you know that the movie is like, it's canon, it takes place in the universe, but it's an original story
with Michael Fassbender?
Yeah. So I liked that because at first I thought they were gonna
just try to do Ezio.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't want anyone to touch that because it's fine the way it is.
I know.
So I think
they tried to do it before, right?
Did they?
With Ezio's, with Ezio's dad. They tried to do so with Ezio's dad. Actually, I'll just show you that YouTube video after. It's like just like a 3-part.
Was it the short film about Ezio's dad, and it was
because I think Borgia.
Yeah. So I saw that. Yeah, and I didn't. That's why I didn't like it because I was like, we know this story.
I know.
We don't need to have it retold to us.
Yeah.
And the voice actor did a better job than the real actor.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that.
Anyways.
Okay. So also, Ubisoft also is stated saying that they will never visit ancient Egypt. And I also know that you were saying that as well. But now I'm hearing that they are going to be. So it's very conflicted.
Interesting.
But there's also sources on 4chan saying that it's probably Assassin's Creed Egypt. But what it could be also is they could return to Rome, ancient Rome, or ancient Greece. We already did see ancient Rome with Ezio, but it would be crazy if Ezio and Sophia had a child during Assassin's Creed Revelations, and then now the new game would be centered around around Ezio's kid. So it's very possible, because Ubisoft absolutely loves Ezio. That's their go-to guy. They made 3 games for him. That wouldn't surprise me at all if they made a spin-off for his son, if he has a son. We don't know if he does, but it's plausible. Also, I wanted to add that... Oh, I already said that.
Oh,
man, my notes are sporadic.
It's a tangent. That's
okay. Yeah, this is I'm just trying to say all of it
get it
at
all
once.
out.
Okay, so let's see this one. Okay, so if there was an Assassin's Creed Egypt, there's so much that they could do with it, especially if they chose to have it toward the end of Egypt's empire, where Cleopatra is the last pharaoh, and then you could have all the other historical figures as well, not just Cleopatra. You could have Mark Antony, and then you could have Octavian and Augustus, which would be super cool. And then you could sort of witness that battle, but also participate in the battle in Assassin's Creed, sort of their method of implementing you into it. And it would also be the perfect tie-in to the Roman Empire, where they could also introduce Ezio's son. If there's I think this is just me thinking. I haven't seen it anywhere, but I think that Ezio's son, and you know what? I think it's going to be Ezio's daughter, because they're moving towards that female sort of perspective.
We could,
right? Because
in
Syndicate, you have the twins.
Yeah, you could get a female perspective in there.
Yeah. But there's also they could do so much with Egypt. There's no because the history of Egypt is so long. So there's the Golden Dynasty, and there's also so many major figures in Egypt. They could, if you could climb the pyramids of, is it Giza? If you could climb those, that would be amazing.
I think that's why a lot of people want ancient Egypt, because I think it's specifically for the reason that they can climb the pyramids, and I don't blame them. I would love
that's
to
what everyone would do.
Yeah.
Or if you were even in the period where they're making the pyramids, and then you could just jump off of them like a badass. Everyone would love to do that. That's all my brother does in Assassin's Creed. He just climbs the highest building, he climbs Notre Dame, and then jumps off of that. That's all he does in the game, just because he loves the music of the eagle soaring through it. But some figures that I would like to see in Assassin's Creed Egypt would be Ramses II, because he's probably one of the more notable ones, or King Tutankhamun.
Yeah.
King, just as a kid too, would be so funny just to see some little pharaoh.
Yeah, if he was if he all of a sudden not only became the ruler of Egypt, but then he also took over the Templar Order, and he's 8 years old, that would be a really interesting villain to just have. Yeah. It's just this little kid, and then maybe you could have your main protagonist so conflicted about having their target be this little kid. I like that. I'm gonna roll with that. I'm gonna lobby for that.
But there's so much they could do with Egypt.
Oh,
See,
yeah.
There's endless possibilities. There's so many different eras that they could go into Egypt, and there's just so much to do. Maybe that's why they don't want to do Egypt, because then players will be like, "How come you didn't do this era? Or why did you do this era? I don't like this. I don't like this depiction." Right? But I guess they have to face that all the time. Furthermore, there could also be an interaction with the Ottomans, Syrians, Babylonians, Sumerians. There's even a group called the Nubians, so that would be just amazing to see. Because there's the gardens in Babylon.
Do you remember the awesome assassin tombs that we got in Assassin's Creed 2 and Assassin's Creed Brotherhood? Could you imagine what they could do with those puzzle mechanics, but in ancient Egypt?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be friggin' awesome? And then you could get this awesome Egyptian armor as a reward.
Yeah.
I'm literally just spitballing ideas, because now I'm taking this idea and I'm just rolling with this.
Yeah. But just the interaction with different groups would also be really something good to see. And then also just seeing the actual game architecture of all the significant places, like I said, the Hanging Gardens, the pyramids just depicted. I know it's a virtual world, but just seeing all of that would be just so amazing. Whenever I play video games, that's what I look at, the environment a lot, and it would just my favorite. It's just so nice to see. That's why I liked Assassin's Creed Black Flag so much.
Yeah,
because it was just amazing. And also the first cities were actually in Mesopotamia. So the first city ever is, I believe it's I don't know how to pronounce anything. It's so bad. But so that there could be a possibility that there's a crossover that you are in the first city and then you go over to Egypt. But it depends how early this game is going to take place in. There's just so much to consider. Also, I think it's kind of funny how no one really is interested in the current world storyline. Like, no one really cares. Like, Desmond dies. Oh, sorry, spoiler alert. But he dies.
he does.
He dies.
Yeah. Quite the horrible death.
Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
Everyone's more interested in the actual game. No one cares a shit what's happening with the Sage. Who cares about what Abstergo is doing? Like, they don't give a fuck about the Templars in this world. Everyone only cares about what has happened already in that universe, which is kind of interesting. But there are some interesting storylines in like the contemporary world.
I honestly don't think, I think that if Ubisoft were to just drop the modern day plot, I don't even think anyone would notice.
Yeah, no one would give a shit. They'd be just like, yes, more game time towards what I want.
Yeah, there'd be like that one YouTube commenter that would be like, where's the modern day plot line? And then everyone would read that and they'd be like, oh wait, yeah, it wasn't there. But no one, I don't think, would notice that.
Also, they wouldn't really care because it's like,
no.
The main reason people play it is because of that. They don't play it because of the modern day storyline. I don't know. Maybe you'll find like one guy who's like, yeah, I love it. I love the story.
Yeah, I think the reason they did that was because, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Anyone can correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that Assassin's Creed 1 was coming out around the time that Prince of Persia was really popular, and I think that the mechanics for the games were very similar as well as the plots. And I think that Assassin's Creed needed to differentiate itself a little bit. So I think what they did was they set up the whole Animus and Abstergo thing so that people wouldn't just play what they would think is a reskin of Prince of Persia. But then obviously Assassin's Creed took off. But I don't know. I think they
could have dropped it still.
That's true.
They have like all this time.
That's
and
true.
They're still holding on to, and it's going nowhere.
Yeah.
Like the main storyline, it's like, okay, now this is a branch of Abstergo. This is the entertainment one.
It was weird to me.
A pirate.
Yeah, it was weird to me in I think it was Black Flag, because they also did this in Rogue. But didn't the modern day plotline take place in Montreal? Like it was
like some French guy, right?
Yeah, and that was just so weird to me. I was like, why would you pick Canada? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, please don't get me wrong. Like, Montreal, it's a beautiful country. Like, I definitely recommend to visit. But like, of all the places in the world,
said Montreal was a beautiful country.
My mistake. North America is a beautiful country, and Montreal is a beautiful city.
North America is also not a country; it's a continent.
You know what I'm trying to say, man. Montreal is just a beautiful place.
Okay.
But of all the places in the world, they picked Montreal.
I don't think it was Montreal.
I'm going to fact check that.
I think it was just some French guy, because the bitch was just an English speaking
the bitch. Here, continue with your tangent, and I'll fact check where it was.
So okay, just to summarize all of that, this is like all speculation, right? It's just super cool to think about. Like, it just makes your mind go crazy trying to consider all of the things that the next game could be, because there's nothing that really indicates what it could be, which is what I also like about Ubisoft, how they're keeping it on the down low. We'd also like to hear what you guys think about it, like your thoughts on the matter, like if you think it's going to be something, if you heard something, just anything at all. So like, just put them in the comments, tweet at us or whatever, and we'll like try to answer. Like, maybe we'll think it's like, oh, that's really plausible, but we could do so much more on this topic, and I'm just going to like summarize it up right now, so we're under 30 minutes. But I'm very excited for the movie. I look forward to doing a podcast on the movie as well, which would be really interesting. Thanks for listening. Did you find anything?
Yes, I did. Okay, so the modern day plotline in Black Flag and Rogue takes place in Montreal.
What the bubba,
which is Abstergo Entertainment's headquarters, which is even funnier because that's where their entertainment branch is based. And yes, Montreal is a city.
Yes.
Is beautiful. But like, why? But I just don't know why. Like, what if the modern
You're in a massive tower, then it's like,
and then it's just Montreal.
Palm trees though.
No, but that was a virtual like window. That's when they're walking down the window, and it's the virtual. and they're saying, "Oh, we have the technology to create all
when
these."
When you're like fucking like stalking around, like creeping around, when John keeps opening the doors for you, you're like in his office, then you go onto the scaffolding and stuff. When you're like looking out onto the world, it looks like fucking weird as shit.
Does
It
it?
looks like.
I thought that was just like virtual stuff.
All right, I'm gonna Google this now too. We're just gonna wrap it up right now. Thanks for listening. We're gonna figure this out, and then, yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
That's all.